The next three were dressed with coats to keep the chill off. And they had piles of pumpkins, sheafs of bright grain, and fowl freshly shot. And the last three were bundled in heavy, heavy coats with toques pulled to their ears. And they had skis and snowshoes and big shovels. She looked at the men, and they asked her what her story was. And she told them. And one of the young men set the table with strawberries and cheese and bread. And she ate and was so grateful and thanked them so much. And then one of the young men said, "What do you think of the months of the year? What do you think of March and April and May?" And she smiled and she said, "Well, it's a good time of year. The sun is shining more. The snow usually begins to melt. The creeks break up eventually and there are fish. There's hope that it'll be warmer and new life will sprout." Well, what of July and August? June and July and August. "Well, those are good months," she said. "Those are the best months for the poor, because in those months, we don't have to worry about our clothes being so thin. And if we don't have oil for the lamp, it's okay, because the sun shines for so long. There are berries to find and mushrooms. People smile and it's warm." Well, what of September, October, and November? She said those are months where there's lots of work to be done. If neighbors bring us maybe a squash or some apples. It's a good time. We're getting ready for the holidays and planning to be together with family and friends. Well, what of December, January, and February? And she looked at them and she said, "Well, those are hard months. They're the hardest for the poor. And some will die. But there is a time when things must rest, and the ground must rest and recharge so that the spring shoots can spring up. And the best thing about winter is the long, long months, the long evenings, and the time to listen to the long stories, the epic tales." And they asked her, "Would you change any of this?" And she said, "No, I wouldn't change a single thing." And one of the young men left the tent, left the yurt, and then he returned with a great stopper jar. And he handed it to Maria and he said, "Take this home and don't open it until you are in your own kitchen." And so she took the jar and she walked home, and as she walked, she saw the miners starting to begin to walk towards the mine. And she walked into her home and she checked each of the children and made sure they were okay. And she spread a cloth on the floor. She pulled the stopper out, poured it out. There were gold coins all over the place. And she took one of the coins, just one. She ran down to the market and she bought cheese and bread and milk. And she was rushing home with such a smile on her face, and the mine owner stopped her and said, "Maria, why are you running? Why do you look so happy?" He looked at her groceries. She had nothing to hide, so she told him. And she rushed back home and fed the children.